There we go. And looks like folks are getting on the call here. Looks like we have a good representation from our mission committee members, so that's good to see, and from our adult education, some from our adult education committee. And I'm going to open us up with a word of prayer and give thanks to God for this time that we have this morning together. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Good and gracious God, we gather on this Lord's Day, alert, aware, awake to your presence in our midst, thankful that we can be your gathered community here in the spaces that we find ourselves, thankful for the opportunity and privilege that we have to serve others in your name. And Lord, we're grateful for the ministry of Nourish Now, and we are alert and attuned to the ministry that you call us into in service to others. And we pray, Lord, that your Spirit would be our teacher and our guide this morning as we share together. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, everybody, we have the joy of welcoming Tammy. Is it Hooten or Houghton?
Putin.
Hooten to our adult education class today, and Marianne is going to introduce Tammy for us so that we are more familiar with.
Well, good morning,
we're gonna be hearing about.
everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. We have the pleasure of having a guest speaker this morning. Tammy Hooten is the Development and Strategic Outreach Officer with Nourish Now, who we have been working with throughout the pandemic, and I think a little bit before that. And she spoke to the mission committee pre-pandemic. I can't even remember when that was. But so we do, some of you may know a little bit about the organization already, but I'm going to hand it over to her to do a short program, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Start and give a little bit of an overview of who we've worked with at Potomac Presbyterian for how long, and then I'm going to give a presentation to give you an overview of who we are before kind of the state of where we're at now in the middle of the pandemic, and allow you to kind of visualize what it looks like, what we're doing on the ground across Montgomery County. And then I'm happy to do some Q&A afterwards. So first of all, Marianne and I think we go back about 18 years. It goes to preschool. I've also been friends with Tracy Talbot for about that long as well. So I've got some wonderful connections with some wonderful people in your community. Marianne and I, through living in the same neighborhood and kids in the same schools, have been connected. And she started volunteering with Nourish Now in January of 2020, the beginning of this year. I'm going to have her describe a little bit when I'm speaking to that kind of the role that she played, what that meant for her. But one of the things that came out of that was I came and spoke to your mission committee. And I was saying earlier that I actually spoke to the mission committee on March 9th, which if we all stop and think about how drastically our world changed within a week of that presentation, it's a little bit staggering. We did not talk about the pandemic or what was to come, because really on March 9th, I don't think anybody really fully understood, even at that time, that it was going to in a week change that much. So it felt a little bit profound when I pulled it up on my calendar to see just how close we were. I wanted to share with you kind of overall that Potomac Presbyterian between the end of February through August 10th is what I have documented, donated almost 900 pounds of food to our food bank. And we provided kind of a list back in the beginning. There was a real need for meat and whatnot, and you definitely rose to that occasion. And then it evolved into more non-perishable staples. And you've continued to be an incredible support to us, and we're so grateful. We also in July, late July, received monetary donations that we're also very thankful for. So I think that gives you, oh, I forgot to say as well, one of our employees is Sam Spencer, who I'm not sure everyone here who knows. He has been part-time with us for about a month, and he was just offered a full-time job on Friday, and he's really done, he's a wonderful presence in our organization. So there's lots of connections, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and move to my PowerPoint, and I'm just going to share that in order for me to bring it full screen, I'm going to collapse all of you. So I won't see if you're raising your hand or even a chat. So bear with me as I try to speak to it without seeing your responses. So let's go. Okay, can everyone see that screen?
Yes.
Okay, very
Yep.
good.
It's good.
Okay, so Nourish Now was started in 2011 by our founder and current executive director, Brett Myers. His background was in the food industry, and he just couldn't stand the food waste that he dealt with day in and day out, and decided that he wanted to start food recovery. And really 2011 is early for food recovery. That wasn't really something that was on the forefront. Certainly hungry people were, but gathering food so that would otherwise not be wasted was a new concept at that time. And it started out of his car, of all things. And he would just pick up bread from Panera where he had connections. He would pick up from restaurants where he had friends that worked and whatnot, and began distributing, literally driving into neighborhoods that he knew would need it, and he would knock on the door, etc. So it has very humble and basic origins, and it has grown. And you can see at the bottom that over 7 million pounds of food has been recovered and donated in that time period. I started at Nourish Now a year and a half ago, for reference, and I specifically address development and outreach for them. Next page. Oh, I love it. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Next, is that how I'm gonna have to do it? I guess so. All right, so there's a lot on this screen, so bear with me. I tried to consolidate everything that we did into one slide pre-pandemic. So I'm going to talk it through a little bit. And first of all, I want to point out that this is Brett Myers, our founder and executive director, as your picture. And over here is a picture of one of the summer camps that we work with the nonprofit called So What Else, that they provide free summer camps to low-income kids in Montgomery County as well as DC, and we provide the food to those camps. So our mission, ending hunger now through food recovery. We recover food and produce from over, and there's a typo, I can't believe I didn't see that. I've looked at this for so many times, from over 150 donor partners, including restaurants, grocers, caterers, agricultural sources. We have 4 major programs that we had prior to the pandemic. The family distribution program, that's our on-site family distribution. We're located in Rockville, Maryland, and we have clients. And once a month, 40 families can come a day to receive food. We do an intake interview. We discuss dietary and allergy concerns, the components of their family, whether they have infants or elderly, and they're provided a combination of prepared food, fresh fruit and produce, non-perishable grocery items. And it was all subject to what might have come in from caterers and restaurants. We have a program called Nourish Neighborhoods, which is where we take food out into the community. We would target areas with high poverty rates, high levels of food insecurity, and collaborate with restaurant partners so that we're bringing them food. My favorite example of that is we partnered this last year with Montgomery College with a group of food insecure veterans that were going to Montgomery College, and we would deliver those 40 individuals once a month food for several days. And it's a great example of pockets that out in the community that need our help that are right in front of us. We have the organization distribution program. Over 90 partner organizations receive our food, including religious institutions, affordable housing, shelters, family support agencies, and finally our school snack program we created in 2018. In particular, we targeted free and reduced meal children that would otherwise not get in because of their transportation to receive their free breakfast. And so our 2,000 students each week would receive a snack in their first period so that they could make it to lunch and be able to be focused. I'd like to, for a moment, have Marianne describe. She came in on Wednesdays, I believe, Marianne, starting in January and up until the point that we needed to shut that down in April, and worked with our family distribution program. And so Marianne, maybe for a moment, if you'd like to describe kind of what it was that you would do and
Sure.
and who you know, what it meant to see the families that would come in.
Sure. Yes, I would say I played a very small role in Nourish Now, but it was very meaningful just for that one day a week that I was involved. Families would arrive to Nourish Now at their slotted time. I would check them in, go over any needs that they may prefer or allergies or things like that. And then they would wait for food to be boxed up for them. And then that was, they were assisted outside to receive the food. It was just, it's very eye-opening to see the people come in and receive the food. And it's not just what someone may envision a low-income family to be. I had one day of a single father from Potomac come in. So it's across the board, the needs of people in our community. And I'm not sure where Nourish Now stands with that program. I don't know if you are starting to have people come back in. No.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it is so important for me to be able to reach into our community and trying to be able to provide for all of these people.
I think also, Marianne, one of the things that I think it's amazing to see the food that we get and provide out, because we're very different than just a shelf stable food bank, which I think a lot of people are kind of envision.
Right. And the half of your office is where you gather all the food. And I was surprised that most of it is fresh food. They can get fresh salads and soups and prepackaged meals. So it's not just constantly receiving the cans of goods. And it's healthy.
Right. So we do try to accommodate things like if someone's a diabetic or if they are gluten-free or whatnot, up until the point that we can. And we have really deep connections with a lot of caterers and restaurants and whatnot. And so the food that is coming in is beautiful. A lot of it is just really beautiful food. Other examples are AstraZeneca's cafeteria we would pick up from twice a week, and Lido's cafeteria. And so this would be the food that they would prepare for their employees. And so it's beautiful packaged fresh food in combination with grocery, et cetera. We pick up regularly from Moms, from Trader Joe's, from Targets, from Giants, Whole Foods. So it's a combination, but when you see it, it's just part of what I think is really special, the type of food. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move away from pre-pandemic, and I should speak to the fact that the family distribution program, pretty much everything you see here is not going on in the pandemic. So starting April 1st, we transitioned to distributing food outside in centralized locations to as many people as we could, as efficiently as we could. And one of the biggest things that we had to do was now, in order to move a line of 300 cars quickly and whatnot, we only ask people their zip code, the number of people in their family, and the number of children. And so the statistics and even our connection is a little bit, a little less, and it's a necessary component to wide-scale distributions that are necessary right now. So to that, it's so strange it won't, I have to advance it that way. Okay. So to that, I wanted to talk about kind of an overall status of food insecurity. And so if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read some of these statistics. But before the pandemic, at least 35 million people in the United States were unable to get enough food or were uncertain where their next meal might come from. And I wanted to stop there so that I could say to you that that is the definition of being food insecure. Unable to get enough food or uncertain where your next meal might come from. So it doesn't mean that you're homeless. You might be, but it doesn't mean that. And it doesn't mean that you don't have a car. It means that food insecure, that it is a part of trying to pay your rent or your mortgage at the end of the month and feed your family to the end of the month, going without, not eating healthy, etc. So before the pandemic, at least 35 million in the US qualified as food insecure. That number is projected to go up by at least 17 million for 2020, according to the nonprofit Feeding America. And Northwestern University has put out a study that says food insecurity has doubled from before the pandemic. So as a nation, you can see the scale of what we're talking about. And I'm sure many of you have seen the videos of lines for miles in Texas or California. So let's bring it to Maryland. Even before COVID-19, it was estimated that roughly 1.5 million Marylanders experienced food insecurity, in part because so many households include workers who were employed but didn't earn enough to support their family, given the high cost of living in our state. Feeding America now estimates that close to 1 million additional Marylanders find themselves food insecure as a result of COVID's long-term economic impact. And speaking to that, the economic fallout is considered, when we finally get back to normal, there will probably be at least a year before this wide-scale expansion of food insecurity goes away. So this is not a short term, this is a long term. And even once we kind of get our arms around this pandemic, it's going to take a long time for the economy to come back in, especially for those that were at the margins to begin with. In August of 2020, Maryland's overall unemployment rate was 6.9%. That's lower than the national average of 8.4, but it's almost double from the 3.6 average for 2019. According to the nonprofit, so that's Maryland, kind of a snapshot, Montgomery County. According to Feeding America, Montgomery County is projected to have a food insecurity rate in 2020 of 13.1, which is up as compared to the 2018 rate of 8%, up over 5%. All right, I'm going to keep going. The child food insecurity rate for 2020 is projected to be 20% in Montgomery County. And the food insecurity rate for 2018 was 11.1%. So that gives you the idea of how much that has gone up. And then finally, No Kid Hungry. This is pre-pandemic. On a survey, 21.9% of Montgomery County high school students reported being food insecure. Almost 36% were Hispanic, 30% were Black, and middle school students were 18.4%. And that's before the pandemic. That was surveys done in conjunction with No Kid Hungry and the state of Maryland. So that gives you, I believe, a good overview of the scale of what we're talking about. Okay, I'm going to give you an idea of what Nourish Now has accomplished. The numbers that you see here, I want to show you go through August 21st. We just haven't had a chance to recalibrate every number on this page since we got this together. We now have 20 distribution sites across the county, including at churches, elementary schools, apartment complexes. There's one at the Bethesda Chevy Chase Fire Rescue Station. We are supporting Montgomery County hubs where they are, Montgomery County has stood up hubs across the county, and a hub supports smaller nonprofits. They are a place where food is gathered, and then churches and smaller nonprofits can go and pick up the food from there. And we're actually providing food on a regular basis to hubs. We're continuing to work and support directly other charities. So What Else, the Street Outreach Network, et cetera. I'm not going to read one of those. I think the really compelling things that you see here, that up through August, 35,677 families have been recorded as to receive our food. That includes over 61,000 children. In particular, working with Rockville Senior Housing, we have targeted over 1,700 senior citizens directly. And we are supporting Montgomery County's homeless outreach. They have provided housing in hotel rooms and whatnot across the county, and they have hired organizations to feed 3 meals a day to the homeless population. And we have provided over 182,000 meals to that homeless population through the county program. 3.3 million meals served, over 4 million pounds of food. It gives you an idea of the scale of what it was. And just for perspective, pre-pandemic, as I described the programs, we would feed about 1,000 families a month. Right now, we are feeding about 2,500 families a week. So the scale is tremendous. I kind of wanted to see if I could zoom in. This is an idea. This is a picture of what we distributed. This was at the fire station. This was 2 weeks ago. So I'd like to show you over on the right and in the middle a little bit is an example of what's inside that box. It's bread, it's tuna, it's soup, it's macaroni and cheese, it's pasta and pasta sauce. There's beans, there's rice, there's cereal. Those contents vary based on what's available. We work with the Capital Area Food Bank, which is the member of Feeding America for our region. And we also work with some food distributors that the county has stood up because, as you can imagine, it was very hard to source food, especially in the beginning of the crisis. In addition to what's in the box of food, there is fresh produce as available through the USDA produce program. And there's dairy that also is through the USDA dairy program. In this particular week, we not only had milk, we had yogurt and cream cheese and butter. And I can tell you, we've only had that beautiful dairy box 3 times, 3 different weeks. So very hard to come by. And in particular, I will share that in the current status of funding, the produce has gone. Montgomery County used to receive 26,000 boxes of produce a week. They now get 3,000. That the funding kind of status that we're in, the USDA has really drastically cut down the produce and the dairy program. And then finally in the middle, I want to show you that is a prepared meal, and you'll see another picture. We have worked with catering partners. Let's see if I can shrink this back and not cause myself. I might have regrets about doing that. But that particular box that we are distributing, thousands each week, we try to provide fresh prepared meals with our boxes. And we have on our own, we have a partnership with a poultry company, that Holly Poultry, that donates about 2,000 pounds of poultry a week, with some county rice that is donated, working with our partner caterer, Simply Fresh Events. Their president is on our board. And at $3 a meal, we can distribute a fresh chicken with rice and beans and vegetables, which is an incredible rate to be able to do that. So that's what you see there. And I'll share that we've chosen to make it that most widespread, unless there's a restaurant that's willing to work with us. And we've had several of those, and I'll show examples later. There was a survey done by the county. How can we feed people that will cross most cultures? And what they came up with was rice, beans, chicken in general. And then folks can put the spices that speak to their culture. And that is how that, there we go. There you go. All right. So let's go to the next slide. So April 1, we shut down our in-house. It just wasn't safe for us to have people coming to our warehouse. And I wanted to just share with you that we took, if you look at this map, the levels, the heat map, if you will, right, from cold being white to red being hot, are the number of our clients by tract. And then the dots are them. And then you can see Watkins Mill Elementary, you can see Washington Grove Elementary, et cetera. And what I wanted to share was that we worked with MCPS, where they were doing their meals to hand out to the kids who were no longer receiving free and reduced meals. And we tried to find gaps because they couldn't provide at every school. And then we tried to also make sense, because we know who's food insecure, there are clients. And we stood up locations where we started our distributions, and that we did take some science to it. We didn't just go out and attempt to just spread food willy-nilly. So this gives you an idea. And on this map, we have been distributing to Watkins Mill and Washington Grove and South Lake Elementary, which is right in here, since April. Okay, I wanted to give you a lot of the next slides are going to be visuals, because I think it really helps people to see it. And I should check my time. I'm okay. Prepared food intake. So it was really important to us to continue to try and provide, real fresh meals. And so I'm highlighting a few of these. You can see up at the top left here, Mama Lucia's is on our board, and they have been a consistent provider of fresh meals throughout. In the middle, you've got Cava. We've done fundraisers with them, as well as them providing some fresh meals throughout. This is La Lamena and Business Leaders Fighting Hunger, worked with them to provide us and another food bank meals on several occasions. Over here, the Sing Foundation up in North Potomac provided, it was close to 500 meals a week for months. They have stopped doing that because they've opened up in a certain capacity, and they had to stop their commercial kitchen in that capacity, but they were an incredible provider of meals throughout the pandemic for us. Right in the middle at the bottom, that is a picture of the meals that I was talking to you that we are putting out widespread. And we try to package them where there's 3 meals per package to try to cut down on the packaging. And so in the bottom one, we just want to give you the visual of the vegetables and the beans and rice within 3 pieces of chicken on top. And then over to the right is a picture of our warehouse, where we've got our fridges and our freezers and volunteers, where we had some catering pans, and they are creating some of our fresh meals to go out, and it gives you a little bit of a visual. Let me go forward. Here's some visuals from our distribution. So I just wanted to give you just some images to kind of wrap your head around what you see there. These are just a variety, but in general, I want to show you over here on the right, you've got bags of produce, you've got the boxes, and then you have bags of prepared meals. And that's really what it looks like of what we would be putting in people's trunks. You've got lines of cars. You've got someone that's taking that basic information. What is your zip code? How many people in your family and how many children? Trying to keep the line moving. We then ask them to pop their trunk. In every box, I want you to know that we include a county postcard that tells them they can call the 311 helpline, and the type of things they can receive there are how to sign up for SNAP benefits. There's a food access center so that they can tell them where a distribution might be this weekend if this food is not going to take them all the way through. There's people that can talk to them about rent assistance and whatnot. So we include that in each box so that they're receiving those as well. And we've had some notable, we had Chris Van Hollen at our Bethesda distribution a couple of weeks ago, and we were in Bethesda Magazine, we were on NPR, and we're trying to get some press and bring spotlights, just like everyone across the country, to keep the idea that food insecurity is just a vast problem and a need, and funding and resources are going to be needed for the long haul while we get through and then recover from the economic fallout. And I wanted to share one more from a distribution. So there you go. Here's your dignitary. There's Sam Spencer at one of our distributions. I would like to share that we have police at almost all of our distributions, because when you have 200 to 300 cars in a line, it's not appointment based. You often have people there hours in advance, and you need help controlling the traffic. I share this photo to let you know that walk-ups are allowed. We try to get people to socially distance. I can tell you, I just worked the Bethesda Chevy Chase this Friday, and maybe I'll give you a snapshot of that distribution this week. We bring enough food for 200. We had over 45 people come into the walk-up. So a lot of people coming out and standing and waiting and walking away with this food. We ran out of food in 50 minutes, 50 minutes. We fed 227 families, 949 individuals that include 362 kids. And for the 9 weeks that we've been doing this out of Bethesda Chevy Chase, it's been over 1,600 families with over 6,500 people and 2,700 children. And that is Bethesda Chevy Chase. With doing the statistics, I can tell you that about 60% of the people that go to that distribution are from the heart of Bethesda Chevy Chase. We have people from Potomac, Kensington, and then our next largest, North Potomac, North Bethesda. And then of course we have people that come from Rockville and Aspen Hill, Wheaton is the other majority of who come. And so that is my slide. I wanted you to see it, feel it. There's Andrew Friedson. I should give him a call out. He's been very supportive. He's the county council member for the Bethesda Chevy Chase area. And I'm going to stop sharing my slides, and I'm going to see you again. And I think maybe I'll share with you, I also had a snapshot for you the week of September 21, across all our distributions, we fed 2,084 families. That equated to 6,465 people and 2,923 children. And so in a week, that is the type of scale that we're operating under. And many of our distributions, but not all, we're at situations where we are turning people away. So we're doing the best we can, and the need is vast. And I hope that you found this useful, and I'm more than happy to take questions.
Tammy, thank you so much. That was it's staggering to hear those statistics and remarkable to hear the work that you all are doing. So I don't know if you can see the chat, and one of the questions that Stephanie posed here is wondering if most of your clients drive to distribution centers or take public transportation. You mentioned there were walk-ups. So
Okay, I don't know how I managed to do that. Are you seeing my screen again, or you're not? Okay.
no, we're seeing you.
Okay,
We
sorry,
see-
I was trying to move over and I was back on my slides for some reason. Okay, we don't ask that question, Stephanie. So, I can tell you that I know that people do take public transportation to some of them, especially the walk-ups in particular. And often they pull over to the side, they bring a backpack or a wheeled cart. They've got to try now and carry. One of the things I guess I didn't say, so let me stop with that, is we consider what they walk away with food for a family of 4 for 5 days. Like when you look at all that was in that picture, and I should have said that. And so it's a lot of food, and it's heavy. And it does set us apart from, say, and not that it's better or whatever, it's just different than what they're going to get at, say, an MCPS, the school grab and go, because that is a meal at a time, right? Whereas this is feeding the entire family for a period of 5 days. So people have backpacks and wheeled carts and whatnot. So yes, people take public transportation, but the majority of these are drive up and they're in cars. But I also can tell you that multiple families come together. I don't know whether that person doesn't have transportation, the second family that is in that vehicle. We really can't, like I said, we can't talk to them that long, because you can imagine the line needs to keep moving, because you've got a queue of cars out in the street. But
yeah, Tammy, do you work with any local farmers or
yes,
farm markets?
Sure. Yeah, Norman's we've worked directly with for years. And right now we're getting some in particular from local farmers. They come and drop off to us and we distribute. Like I said, though, at the volume that we're talking about, the produce that we were putting out was very much from the USDA's produce program. But like I said, that's been cut back drastically countywide. So yes, we do, but it's not nearly enough at the scale.
There's a question about how we can be supportive. Susan Peerless asks if you have a need for volunteers, or are you oversubscribed?
No, so let me say that this summer was really amazing. You can imagine so many college kids, first of all, who came home early. So not just the summer, but in the spring, who maybe had internships or things that fell through. We were blessed with very capable college kids that came in and really helped us incredibly. And now they're all back. And so we are in a current state of need. Our typical hours are 9:30 to 3:30 that we're looking. And so unfortunately for us, that has always been the case of our typical hours. And so when the kids are in school, the local kids, it doesn't fit their availability very well, right? The types of things that we need. So one of the things that I guess we should talk about is the warehouse that, like Marianne talked about, coming in. We're in the process. We're going to be moving our warehouse here in mid-October, which is making me sweat because it's difficult. in April, we had a very generous person donate a warehouse for us in Rockville. It's about 1.5 miles from our current warehouse. And that is where we've done all of that box production. And 7 months is a very generous amount of time to donate a warehouse free of charge, but that has come to an end. And so we need to move to a larger facility that allows us to continue to make these boxes and do the fresh food recovery and house our working staff, right? So we're still going to be in Rockville. We're going to be about 1.5 miles in a different direction up the road on Goody Boulevard. And so allowing you to envision the type of volunteers that we need people to help us make boxes. We need folks that are on the food recovery side to receive that food that comes in from Whole Foods or a caterer or Target or whatnot, and process it, put things in freezers and fridges, and make sure that the dates are good, and get them on our shelves. And then we have some folks that help us at distributions as well, where they're there recording the data or helping to hand out boxes at the distributions. And we definitely do need volunteers.
There's another question about your interface with Manna, which our church has supported. And Elsie Reed wants to thank you for the great need that you're meeting, that you're spotlighting on food insecurity. So what's your interface with Manna?
Yeah, we work kind of side by side. They're one of the larger food providers in the county as well. They're also supporting hubs and other smaller nonprofits that are trying to address the need. And we tend to just sort of work in tandem,
Okay.
and not as much directly. We don't receive food from them, and they're not receiving food from us, right? We're all out trying to address the need and kind of work together. There's a food security task force that the Department of Health and Human Services of Montgomery County has stood up during this pandemic, and we work together with them. And the larger food providers are all part of that. And so we've got all our distributions on maps, and we're trying not to overlap, and we're trying to just address the need efficiently and meet the needs that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that answers that. I can see the chat now. So
Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah. Is that Montgomery College, Germantown? Is that MC or?
Yeah.
Okay. We definitely work with other food programs. We support a lot of other small nonprofits. Some of them come to us and pick up bread, milk if we have it, some of the produce that we have, some of the fresh meals that we have. Others go to the county hubs where we deliver that food to the hub, and the hub is the place that stores it because it has refrigeration needs, etc. So I know we were working directly with Montgomery College and Rockville, like as I described that program, but my understanding, because I've been on some of the food council calls, that I believe Montgomery College has had their food banks shut down for a lot of this, and we're referring their students to other organizations. So I hope, I can't speak, I don't want to speak directly.
Because they're closed. Nobody's on campus.
Right.
But when we're on campus, we have had the food banks right up until the time we closed last spring. Yeah.
Yes.
And the students can come in on, it's a room, they can come in and just take one item, they can take several as they need it. But you're right, it's not meant for great deliveries of a week, but it's more of a meal or a few items.
Yes. I'm unaware if we work directly with the Germantown. Like I said, I'm aware of our connection with the Rockville. But I'm sure that we would be supportive if, when they get going. There is a connection already there, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We are one of the lead, BlackRock Center for the Arts has a Germantown hub They've had that. That was the very first county hub. And we were the lead food provider behind it from the beginning. So we've had a presence up in Germantown from the very beginning. And most of the small nonprofits up in Germantown are being supported by that hub.
Tammy, am I correct in thinking that one of the unique sort of geniuses of Nourish Now is the food recovery part of it? That was
Well, that was sort
that
of
started?
our focus that made it a little different from, say, a standard non-perishable food bank in the beginning, right? And
Yeah.
that these families that would come to us, it would be mostly fresh prepared meals, and we could accommodate things like, I'm a diabetic, so I can't have this, or I don't eat pork, or things like that. So that's sort of the origins and still at the heart of our mission, right? And food recovery is picking back up again.
Is it?
But for a while, it was completely non-existent in the pandemic.
Gotcha.
And we weren't in the business of producing in the business, not that we were a business ever, but of producing mass non-perishable boxes. That wasn't what we did, but it is what
I see.
we have done to address the need. So someday we'll all kind of get back to our origins, and maybe some of this will continue. I don't know. We're going to keep doing what we're doing as long as it's needed, and we do work directly with the county, and they know what we're doing, and we know where the need is, and we all try to work together.
And you've had to adapt, and you've adapted beautifully, it sounds like, to the needs that have been
Yes.
put before you. Yeah.
So, things that we might need is, continued monetary support, staff, gas, rent. Those underlying costs are huge. We are going to a bigger warehouse. We needed to. We had a donated warehouse that has gone away, and we literally can't bring the non-perishable boxes back into our current space. There just is not the physical space to do it. Thanksgiving, we always do a huge Thanksgiving. We're evolving it a little bit, but we're going to provide prepared family feasts, and we're aiming for 1,000 families on Wednesday, November 25th. We've got some partners lined up. The Washington football team, I think that's what we call them now. They're a partner with us, as were the Washington Nationals before. So we would go pick up their concession food after the games and whatnot. And so they are going to help make stuffing and provide sheet pans. And we're working with a group called the Progress Clubs, and they're going to roast turkeys. And we are going to provide 1,000 families a prepared meal. And we definitely need some sponsorship behind that initiative. Distributions have been sponsored by groups. It's something that can be considered, where, once a month, this particular organization is going to sponsor the distribution at this particular elementary school or apartment complex. So it's something that can be considered. And I just worked with a Masons group in Northwest DC this week, where they came in, they made boxes for 2 hours, and then they sponsored and went to the distribution and handed it out. So it was kind of a full service, where they not only touched the behind the scenes and provided some monetary support of what was a part of that, right? And then they went to the distribution and actually got to saw the people and put the food in their trunks. And it's a very meaningful way to be a part from kind of beginning to end. So those are some of our current needs. And I'm happy to tell you that we did get a county grant for capacity building. And so as part of this new warehouse, we will double our refrigeration and freezer space, as well as be able to have a forklift. If you remember seeing that large thing, we haven't had a forklift for all of those boxes. We've been using just their electric kind of things. But with a capacity building grant, will be long-term, which was one of the county goals with some of the Federal CARES Act, was to take their large food providers and make them better for the long term. And we will be. from that, and that's part of the move. So
Wow. Wow. So much good being done through your organization, and we're so grateful to be able to hear about it and learn from you. And thank you for giving your time and your energy to be with us today and to enlighten us as to the opportunities that where we can partner with you all, but also enlighten us on the needs and what you all are doing and will do and have done. So many, many, many thanks, Tammy, for your
great.
time.
Thank you.
and
Thank you for
wisdom.
all your support in the past and the present. We really appreciate it.
And as a
course.
reminder, I'm collecting food this weekend, so more than happy if you want to still drop some things off on my front porch.
That's an excellent reminder. Thanks, Marianne. All right, everybody, we're heading into worship. Many thanks for joining us this morning here. Thank you, Stephanie, for getting us organized, and Tammy for being with us, and Marianne for your encouragement of Nourish Now. Stay well, everybody. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.